The Imitation Game. Benedict Cumberbatch is one of my favorite actors working today. He's in Sherlock. Actually, he's in Sherlock. I could end the list right there. But he's also impressed me as a creepy, despicable rapist. Is there any other kind? And a sympathetic, but ultimately cowardly, slave owner. Rapist and slave owner. Quite the resume. I feel like I can't comment on his roles as Khan or Smaug without upsetting some rabid fan bases, so I won't. Plus, I haven't seen those movies. The reason I bring up how much I like Benedict Cumberbatch is because he's kind of the only thing I liked about The Imitation Game. The movie opens in 1951 with detectives investigating the apparent break-in at the home of mathematician Alan Turing, played by Cumberbatch. One of the detectives senses something is off, and he thinks Turing might be a spy. During his interrogation of Turing, Turing tells him about his work at Bletchley Park during World War II.
What did you really do during the war?
Flashback to 1939. Turing is hired by Commander Alistair Denniston, played by Charles Dance, to join a team of cryptographers trying to decipher the Nazis' Enigma code. The Allies would intercept German war messages but couldn't understand them without cracking the code. And every day the code remained unsolved, more soldiers were dying.
Mr. Turing, do you know how many died because of it? I don't. 3. While we've been having this conversation.
Turing proves difficult to work with, as he knows he's smarter than his colleagues and he doesn't pick up on social cues. He wants to build a machine that will algorithmically break the code, but Tywin Lannister refuses to fund it. When Turing writes a letter appealing directly to Winston Churchill, Churchill not only funds the machine, but puts Turing in charge of the team. He promptly fires 2 team members and hires Joan Clark, played by Keira Knightley, because she was able to solve a puzzle that he had published in the newspaper.
5 minutes and 34 seconds.
You said to do it in under 6.
Turing builds his machine, it's revealed he's secretly gay, there are flashbacks to when he was a boy in school and loved another boy, he names his machine Christopher after that boy, and blah 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 blah, climax, ending. I should say up front, this movie isn't bad. It's competently made and holds your attention, and there are 1 or 2 exciting moments. But overall, it's bland and compoundingly disappointing. Alan Turing is one of the most fascinating figures of the 20th century, and I feel like this movie does a disservice to him. While Cumberbatch is great, and he is great, his character barely changes. His arc as a laughably awkward but misunderstood genius coming out of his shell to unite his team towards a common goal is predictive bullshit. I honestly found it difficult to care about his character at all until one of his final scenes. Once he finally had my attention and I was invested in him, the movie ended. Keira Knightley does well with what she's given, but she's given the fairly standard, underwritten female supporting character that you always see in Oscar-bait movies. The most frustrating thing about the movie is that it has hints of some really good ideas, but then never explores them. For example, the fact that computers can pretend to be human. There's a line between computers and humans, and Alan Turing helped define that line with his famous and eponymously named Turing test.
Could machines ever think as human beings do?
Most people say no.
You're not most people.
In the film, Turing treats his machine like a person, as a replacement for a real relationship that he longs for. But they never explore this idea, that his only companion is a computer, and he would later devise a test that would attempt to prove that computers could, on some level, be seen as cognizant beings. Another idea they hint at but don't explore is the idea of this quote-unquote imitation game. In the aforementioned Turing test, a computer must pretend to be, or imitate, a human, in order to convince a person that it is human.
It's a test of sorts for determining whether something is a machine or a human.
Much like Turing himself has to pretend to be heterosexual in order to convince everyone that he is.
Would you like to play? All you have to do is ask me a question.
Again, this idea is briefly introduced, but then the movie doesn't go anywhere with it. Instead, the movie goes the safe route. Everything about it feels safe and predictable, and it hits the beats you think it's going to hit. It almost seems afraid to really dig into the tragedy of Alan Turing, as the most interesting parts of his life are glossed over. What we're left with is a by-the-numbers biopic and a wasted opportunity for a movie about a truly interesting guy. The movie is fine for what it does, I just wish it did more. It's perfectly adequate Oscar fare, but perfectly adequate won't be remembered in a few years. And it didn't have to be this way. Sorry, Alan Turing.